All right, I love it. Applause, music, and sound is always good. You gotta love an excellent producer. You gotta love them. Welcome to another week of Living a Rich Life. I am your host, Rich James. Here on Living a Rich Life talk show, we inform, inspire, and encourage each other to live the principles of the Living a Rich Life network. Those principles are good health, strong relationships, financial freedom, goals and achievement, extraordinary experiences, and philanthropy. Today's guests are definitely prime examples of individuals that will inform, inspire, and encourage you to live a rich life. So with that being said, you already know, let's talk about it. Our first guest, well, she needs no introduction. However, this is what we do. She is a communication specialist that provides image consulting through traditional communication support, creative direction, and personal styling services. She is the owner of Courted, a lifestyle known for helping clients develop their style and court their experience. If you are ready to start transforming your fashion style, please put your hands together and welcome Miss Courtney O'Neill. Yes. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Myself and my team been trying to coordinate this for a minute. For some reason, they like fashion, and I said, well, we can have a segment on fashion and all these different things. And I said, I got the perfect guest. And your name came up, and we finally made it happen. So how are you doing, first and foremost?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am better than amazing, as I like to say. I am better than amazing.
That's a great status to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first and foremost, let's kick it off. Tell me and tell our viewers about yourself.
Well, you gave me an awesome introduction, but as you mentioned, I am a communications professional by trade and also an entrepreneur. And as you mentioned, my business is called Courted. It's an image consulting firm, and we provide styling service in the traditional meaning, but also through communication strategy and creative direction. So what that looks like is traditional comms, media relations. You need to get yourself in front of the camera or in the press. We're here to serve. Or if you have a photo shoot coming up, we offer creative direction to give you a little boost in the next photo or image you want to put out there in front of the world.
Okay. So when we talk about communications, how did you get into communications?
First, starting in undergrad, I attended Spelman College, where I earned my bachelor's degree in English, and then I went on to graduate school, where I attended Trinity Washington University and earned my master's degree in communications. So I've been in the industry from the very beginning, just navigating different sectors and staying with it, and ultimately kind of navigating my own path as an entrepreneur.
Very, very nice, very nice. So one of the things that my team dug up, and I think a lot of the females on my team, you have a quote that says, "More than fashion, it's a lifestyle." Tell us about that.
So that's our company's byline, which means that if you take a look at the clients that we serve and service, a lot of what they do in terms of their image or supporting their image is a part of their personal brand. So part of, creating a look for them, if it has to do with their style as it relates to fashion, is a part of their personal brand or public image. A lot of our clients are from the political sector or public affairs space. And so they're very conscious of their brands and their personal image. And so a lot of the work that we do is conscious of that. And as it relates to retail partners, while we respect the brands that we work with and the content that they put out, it's about our clients at the end of the day. It's not about what's in a storefront or the partners that we're working with. It's about the client.
Nice. It's always about the client, right? They say the customer is always right.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned brands. Who are some of the brands that Corded has worked with?
Well, one of our favorite partners that we're working with right now is Olay. We also work with Macy's, Nordstrom, any major retailer you can think of in the area or in the industry as it relates to storefronts. And then on the local end, the museum, a lot of people are very, big fans of them. We've worked with a lot of different people, DC Funk Parade, work with a lot of schools. My alma mater was one of the recent ones I've done some work with. The ball keeps rolling. We keep partnering with a lot of different people across sectors.
Nice. Now, do you have a favorite? Because again, Be Exposed Radio, we about exposing folks.
No favorites.
No favorites.
If the check clears, that's a fan of ours.
I know that's right. So in dealing with all those different brands, I'm sure everyone has a different style when it comes to marketing that you probably your approach. What's your favorite method of marketing?
For Corded as our personal approach?
Yes, yes.
Well, we love using a platform of broadcast media. That's a very effective strategy for us. But social media, obviously, digital marketing is where it's at right now. So combining the traditional communications with new media is one of the ways that we reach the most people.
Okay. And before we get any further, let's make sure let the folks know that's watching and listening, and we'll catch this live as well later. How can they stay in touch? Can you provide your social media information?
Absolutely. So you can follow us at Corded Style on social media, and then pick up any other information about the company at cordedstyle.com.
Nice. So folks that are just tuning in and listening, we have Courtney O'Neill, the owner of Corded. Now tell me about that name. Does that have a play off your name?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the other phrase we like to use is "you've been courted." So once you've worked with the company, you've been courted.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So we talked about social media, and one of the things that I've kind of started to learn on my own is content. And how is content important for communications?
Well, content is the name of the game, right? Everybody's trying to create content and get their content in front of the eyeballs that they want it to be seen. So from a strategic standpoint, consistency is the hardest part. And from there, it's beating the algorithm. And I think we're all trying to crack the code on that one.
Okay. So it's an algorithm and consistency. And that's probably why I've reached out and have some people on my team, because I'm not really good when it comes to that consistency thing.
It's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the difference when you think about, and again, this was a conversation that me and my team had, what's the difference between public relations and a communication specialist? Is there a difference? Tell us about that. What are your thoughts?
Well, communication specialist would be the title, and somebody, in the past when I've used that term or that term's been applied to me, that's just an overarching summation of experience, but public relations is the approach or strategic approach to communication. So it's a particular advantage or way of breaching the conversation or broaching the conversation, I should say. So that's interacting with media. That's strategy in terms of how you're creating messaging around a particular brand or a client that you're working with.
Okay. So with Corded, in terms of your services, would creating a press kit be something that Corded would do?
Sure, if that's what the client needs. I think a lot of our clients have required a different level of services in terms of communications. A lot of them more so objectively are trying to get in front of, again, the eyeballs, or trying to reach new audiences. So we have not so much focused on that, but we can offer that service if needed.
Okay. And again, I think you mentioned it earlier, but for those that are just tuning in, can you share some of those services that you provide at Corded?
Sure. So we focus on communication strategy, creative direction, and fashion styling. So overarching, we provide image consulting services. So the effort is to elevate your brand and create a message that you want to see in front of the eyeballs you're trying to reach.
In front of the eyeballs you're trying to reach. I like that. Well said. So let's talk about your hashtag. Again, we found something, and again, my team does some pretty good research. You have a hashtag Ask Corded. What does that hashtag represent? What is that about?
So I would say that was a previous messaging strategy we used in terms of if people had questions about, again, style questions or strategy questions, you could ask Corded. What were our thoughts? I think now the one that we focus on more is Corded approved. So we use stamps of approval of something that we like, something that we think is empowering. We like to focus definitely on empowerment for women and for men as well. But I think women a lot of times need that double down support. So we give shout outs for that hashtag Corded approved.
Nice. Now, one of the videos when we were doing some research on you, not just Corded, we noticed, I think it was the SAG Awards. Excuse me. So there's different times here, because right? So you haven't had any awards, and folks were just kind of sitting back and watching and listening as you share your thoughts with the fashion.
Okay.
Now, is that something you enjoy from, again, just personally? I mean, communications, fashion, lifestyle, I guess all those things kind of go hand in hand, right?
Absolutely. Everything is connected. There's no coincidence, if you will. I talked to a good friend of mine who focuses on motivation, and we always talk about the fact that there are no coincidences. While that word is in our vocabulary, it almost should be removed because everything is intertwined and all industries play off of one another. So right now, if you hear in messaging from the public sector, optimism is a theme. Optimism is also a theme in lifestyle and also in fashion. That came from the runways from 2021, or maybe even 2020, I should say, focusing on spring 2021 and summer 2021. So all of those things are intertwined and interconnected. It's a messaging approach, but people pick it up coincidentally.
As you say. Courtney, have you ever modeled?
No.
No? Okay.
I mean, school fashion shows, I guess.
Ever. Ever. We're not talking about like present, Believe it or not, I used to model with my knock knees, but that was something. Right.
Don't hurt them, Rich.
No, I try not to, but then again, sometimes I do. Sometimes.
Okay.
Tell us one of the things I always like to ask my guests, because just like you said, some things don't happen by coincidence. I believe that everyone has a superpower. So tell our viewers here on Be Exposed Radio, what is Courtney O'Neal superpower?
I believe my superpower is the ability to show up. One thing that I've learned through all of my professional experiences that I apply to or try to share with clients is the importance of showing up. That's something that I learned growing up, like in a church environment. We are taught, when you show up for Sunday service, you show up as your best self. So regardless of what's going on in your life or in the background, that job requires you to show up. It doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. It doesn't matter if your dog is sick. you have to show up and perform. And so I think that my superpower has come to light to be showing up.
Showing up. So when I hear that, I think, anyone can show up, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Anyone can
But
show
showing
up
up as your best self,
as your best.
ready to do the work, rolling up your sleeves, unfazed, unbothered. You wouldn't know anything is going on.
Ah, okay, okay.
Mhm.
That makes more sense to me. That makes more sense to me. Understand.
Gotcha.
So tell us a little more about Corded for those that don't know. How long you've been in business. Give us some demographics and some information on Corded so folks can be a little more aware of who you are.
Sure. We've been in business for about 6 years and counting, I should say. Originally, we started out just as a fashion service platform, so a mobile fashion styling service, but since have evolved into the service verticals that I shared with you earlier, which is communications and creative direction. A lot of that is my personal realization that when people do ask you advice about things, that's what you should be doing. So, as I mentioned, by trade, what I do is communications. It made no sense not to include that in the fold, because at the end of the day, people were still asking me offline, hey, can you help me with this speech? Hey, can you help me with this press strategy? Hey, can you help me with that, fill in the blank. And as it relates to companies more than ever need help with messaging and brand strategy, particularly looking at the DEI space. People are focusing on diversity more than ever. And it's not just from a race standpoint, but it's also from an age standpoint. A lot of spaces want to mix it up. They don't want to reach, again, just some of their traditional audiences that they've been in touch with. So diversity is key. That's a buzzword that's not going away. It's growing. I
was going to say that it's really popular these days.
Very, very popular, to say the least. And we are a B2C and B2B operation. So we service clients and individually and companies as well.
Nice. So, again, and just doing some research on you and your company and places you've appeared, tell us about your experience on Let's Talk Live. And I think that segment was Lifestyle Essentials and the Perfect Winter Look for Men. And that was on ABC7. Now, I asked this question because I want to know, Lifestyle Essentials, the perfect spring.
Okay.
Right. That's really where that came from, right? But
okay.
I did want to know that. So go ahead. Tell us about that.
Are you asking about what to wear for men, or are you asking what's it like to be on Let's Talk Live?
No, so that's two questions, right?
Okay. I was like, you try to sneak one in there.
Yes. Which because that's what I do sometimes, right?
Okay.
Ultimately, we do want to know, in terms of, again, viewers that watching and listening, if they can get a little snippet from a fashion standpoint, like I said, Lifestyle Essentials. So share what your experience on the show. And then, again, let's talk about the perfect spring look for men.
Doing any of the morning shows is great. Let's Talk Live is awesome. At the time, I was working with Kip and Julie, the two anchors on that show, and they were both great to work with. So I have nothing more to add about that. Live TV is it's hard work, and anybody that is interested in doing it, part of, again, what service we provide is kind of helping people build up that muscle for live television. There's no editing. So you have to be ready to say what you want to say and hope that it all comes out without any fumbles, and just go with the punches there. But as far as spring looks for men, pants are very trendy right now in terms of colors and prints. Relaxed fit, if you will. It's kind of like a jogger look. The best describe it. And then, sneakers whether it be a dress sneaker or I always think a must-have for men is a white sneaker. That can go with your business casual looks or just very casual.
Ah, nice. Let me ask you.
Now you got that for free. Next one is going to have a fee associated with it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that because, financial freedom is principle number 3, living a rich life. So, it's give and take, right? It's give and take. I can appreciate that.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts, since we're talking about fashion, what are your thoughts in men in skinny jeans?
I think
I
you
love
have
it. She
to
says,
have.
I don't wear skinny jeans. I mean, I got too much in the back, but.
Well, okay. So there's certain brands that are aware of the male body type and the fact that some men, to your point, especially culturally, are not built the same as others, maybe considering European body types versus non-European body types. So there are jeans that are out there that are designed to support that structure. But when it comes to men wearing skinny jeans, I mean, that's your decision. Does it look great on everybody? No. Does it look sometimes maybe childish or immature, depending on who that person is? Yes. It's more, I think, a lot of times appealing for people that are in the entertainment industry, people that are younger. So it's at the end of the day, fashion is a prerogative. It's your prerogative. No one is in a place to tell you what to wear. But I think, if you have a sense of self-awareness and know what looks good and works for you, then go for it.
Nice. I appreciate that response. So let me give you a rebuttal. Let me give you
okay.
I am your client. I say, hey, excuse me. I come to court it. I fill out my form online on your website, right?
Yeah.
I come to you again. I want to be, this that lifestyle. I'm looking for a change. I'm looking for your expertise and things of that nature. And I'm wearing, whatever I'm wearing. It doesn't have to be skinny jeans, right?
Sure.
You look very flattering on me. Would you address that again? I want you to be my, I want to hire you.
Right.
Spit it out, Rich. Right. How would you approach that?
Well, the way that we approach style or fashion with our clients is focusing on their style or fashion goals. So again, going back to lifestyle, a lot of times our clients are consulting us because it's tied to their personal lives. So it has some connection to their careers, their professionalism. Maybe even when I say brand, some of them are business owners or entrepreneurs, and they're burgeoning into a space maybe that's not associated with what they do by day. So if that does not fit with the space that they're trying to be in, absolutely, we're going to be candid and say, don't think this is the best look for you, or try at best the same way you do with a client, a principal, and say, I don't think this is the best messaging strategy for you. I think you should go in this direction. All you could do is lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink.
Ah, that's an old saying.
Absolutely.
True, but that's an old saying. Okay. So we talked about a little fashion and lifestyle, and let's circle back again because everything connects. Communication specialist. So what skills help you to be an effective communication specialist?
In terms of my person.
Yeah. So, just in terms, right? Someone, hey, we have Courtney O'Neill on, and she's talking about a communication specialist and these different avenues and this, what would you say skills that you need to be a good, effective communication specialist?
Sure. You have to be a good listener.
Okay.
You need to be able to work well under stress or under pressure. And you have to be able to think critically, as well as look at things from all sides. So sometimes I think in the communication space, we're very optimistic and, sure of ourselves that this approach or this again, strategy is going to work because that's how we see it happening, but it may not. There may be some curveball that comes into play. So you have to think about those things just to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, and maybe the middle ground outcome that might happen.
Yeah, your plan A has to have a plan B, and your plan B has to have a plan C.
Absolutely.
I like that theory. I like that theory. What do you find challenging to deal with when, as a communication specialist? What are some of the challenges that you face as a communication specialist, but also as being an entrepreneur? Two questions.
People. That's the simple answer. If you're working with folks, at the end of the day, you're a consultant on either side of that coin, that question. Mm-hmm. So you're hired to do a job. People have to relinquish control and give trust, and that's hard to do. So building that relationship on that level is your first challenge, and getting people to understand that they did hire you for a particular reason. Mm-hmm. And releasing the reins to you, that's the biggest challenge. That's the hardest thing.
Yeah. When I think about, again, because at the end of the day, it's all about people, right?
It's all about people.
It comes to your brand, people buy into you first and foremost.
Yes.
So that's really what it comes down to. And then the communication piece, right? Because at the same time, if you don't have that necessary level of communication, then that could really, that could mess up whether it's a relationship, the trust, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay. So I'm just connecting all the pieces because I'm a little slow sometimes.
Okay.
Usually on Wednesdays. I'm a little slow.
Got it.
So, but, tell us, so again, folks that are just joining in, we are speaking with Courtney O'Neill, owner of Courted. And we're talking fashion, we're talking communications, we're talking lifestyle, and the conversation's going pretty well. Tell us, Courtney, what's new, next, and now in fashion with Courted?
I'd say
not just fashion.
In general.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's new, next, and now? I get caught up on the fashion because you're always so fashion. You're all stylish every time I see you.
Well, that's part of my personal brand. I like style, so. It's not that I think that everybody else should focus in on it. That's just part of my story.
Gotcha.
But I do think it's a power tool. I do think it's a power tool. I've had personal stories of where it has been effective for me. So, and it's something that I think that is relevant across industries as well. I shared this story recently. This has nothing to do with politics for me, but, Donald Trump's brand includes his red power tie. We've known him for that particular fashion tool or fashion piece that he wears all the time. Even the MAGA red hat, that's his fashion style. So it is an effective communication tool that he used. Other people can do the same thing wearing other things. So that's why I think fashion style is important.
I agree. I got to say, though, with number 45, it wasn't so much because, red is, you hear about the red ties and it's the power tie. I was more like, it's too damn long. I'm just saying, though, right?
It was long. He did wear it long.
We exposed radio. We exposed the truth out here. We keep nothing. The tie was too damn long. And I was like, he's trying to compensate for something. I don't know. I made all that
among other things. He did a lot of other things to try to compensate. But I'm not going to get into all that.
No, we're not going to. I'm just telling you, right? We're candid.
I'll let you say it.
Yeah, exactly. We're candid. And, I just sort of, I never really thought of it as a power move, but I just thought of it more as the tie's too damn long. The tie could have been gray. I would have said the same thing.
Right. I say that all to say that was part of his brand, his personal brand.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have anything to do with me liking it or not. It's just that was part of his personal brand.
Gotcha.
So as it relates to what's on the battlefront for fashion, drama is in. People are tired of being schleppy at home in sweats and wearing leggings and athleisure. So people are trying to show out and show up, not only as their best self, but the exaggerated selves that they could be. So you're going to see a lot of sleeves and poofiness and, like I mentioned, patterns and prints and colors.
Right.
So being bold is definitely in for both seasons coming up, or that we're currently in right now. And then as far as Corded is concerned, I'm working on creating a pipeline for other people that are in this space, so that it's not so difficult. I had to learn a lot of things on my own, but it should not have to be this way. So a space for people that are quote unquote influencers. I don't particularly love that word, but it is a real thing. And people of color in particular, so that they can learn how to do the same thing.
And that's a strong statement. And for me, understanding that again, because one, we can all win. That's what I
Yes.
believe. So I have an excellent relationship with several folks that do podcasts, and everyone has the audience. But the one thing I say, shout outs to Bourbon and Boy Shorts, because those guys, again, it's a good tag team thing that's going on. I think at the end of the day, we can all win. So
yes,
kudos to you to being willing to share your experience and provide an environment and platform that folks can learn. So it's not as hard for you. I mean, for them, like
right.
So that's a good thing. I'm definitely tired of wearing leggings. I mean, no, kidding. I don't wear leggings, but I
No.
get the thing,
And your skinny jeans.
Yeah. I think people being locked up, being inside 2020, and the world kind of reopening, so to speak.
Yes.
I have seen some things. I mean, and normally I don't really wear bold and patterned pants, but I find myself wearing, pants with colors now and stripes and and I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of
feeling free.
That I am. That I am. Let's talk about a quote that one of my team members they pulled up, and I'm not sure where they pulled it up from.
Okay, I might have to fact check it.
Look the part to get the part. Does that sound familiar?
Sure.
Look the part to get the part. What does that mean to you? And I think I've heard some of it in our conversations.
Sure. What it means to me is that sometimes you have to play the game in terms of where you're at, or where you're trying to be. So I don't necessarily believe in the idea of fitting in, just to be accepted. However, you have to be aware of your audience and what that translates to in terms of fashion or style, and even messaging is you can't go into, let's just use, I think in that particular article I was talking about finance. You can't go into a financial space or with hopes of getting a job in the financial industry and then talking about hip hop and then wearing sweatpants, to the meeting. That's not going to work. The people that are in that space are just going to be like, what are you talking about? And what are you doing? You're not being serious. I'm not going to take you seriously. So at the end of the day, there's, a subculture to every industry. There's some norms, some cultural norms to follow, and you have to acknowledge them. Individualism is part of, especially the millennial generation theme and culture, but you have to play the game. So I definitely recommend and advise that to anybody who's thinking about their style in that way, or, what should they wear to their next interview. I just did a master class on this conversation. There's certain things that you should and should not do at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of which, and we talked about social media and look the part to get the part. What are your views on the social media platform Clubhouse? Because I think that's that's a rave. And again, I'm not here to, sponsor Clubhouse or anything, but
Sure.
I'm understanding that there's a lot happening on Clubhouse, and folks are trying to get me to join. Hell, I'm still trying to just get back into the studio versus doing virtual.
Right.
But tell
Right.
me,
Right.
the Clubhouse, because I think that sounds a lot like what you mentioned, right? So you can be in a room and sharing your thoughts and asking, questions surrounding whatever it is you want to do. And I've sat in a couple of those, and just because I'm watching and learning, but it does seem like a lot's going on there. But what are your thoughts with Clubhouse and how that pertains to kind of what you were just talking about?
Well, I've seen a range of conversations, as you mentioned, thought leadership conversations
Mhm.
to people kind of just on there hanging out. So if people are using the platform strategically and effectively, I personally have seen Clubhouse. It's really about the users, but
Right.
I've seen it used very well, and I think it
Have you
is
seen
here
it
to
being
stay.
used? Have you seen it not being used very well?
Sure,
Okay. Okay.
but that's with every platform, right?
Yeah. I guess so. But when you're using it a certain way, you tend to only focus on that. I mean, you know, there's a learning curve to this.
There's levels. There's levels.
Yeah. There's levels to, as I like to say, there's levels to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Oh goodness, that's funny. So Clubhouse, you use it or you don't use it?
I do use it, not as much as maybe some of the other platforms, but I do use it.
Okay. So what other media outlets do you use?
Um, I use Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, LinkedIn. Instagram and LinkedIn are my two favorites. Some of the others, less.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't. There's too many options. Too many options these days. Just there's too many options. I think I
Yeah.
don't eat McDonald's, but I hear that they making tacos now. But that's neither here or there. All right. So that's just joining and watching and listening. You are listening to Courtney O'Neill. She is sharing, dropping gems. She already told me the next couple of gems might cost me, so I'll be careful in the ones that I ask. You can call in if you have questions. Feel free to hit us in the chat. But we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it going. So my team noticed you were recognized in a magazine called Authority as a thought leader, because I heard you mention that term. Tell us 5 things you should do to become a thought leader in your industry.
Sure. I think the first thing is you should follow other people in your industry space. If you don't, and that means people that are people you aspire to be like, people that you admire. If you don't, you should start following those people. 2, you should start putting your own voice, your own thoughts out there. So you mentioned some of these platforms that are available that are free. Start using them strategically, not just to post photos for sake of sharing. Think about it to share your messaging. 3, I would read. Do some thoughtful reading. What that means is, if that's career development, professional development, self-help aisle, take a walk down that in the bookstore or on your audiobook files, to see what's out there to help you elevate your mindset, your thinking, your thought process, so that you can open yourself up to a way of approaching the conversation beyond what you've been exposed to. 4, I would say start hanging out with like-minded individuals or people that are also on the same trajectory as yourself. So if you are an entrepreneur, hang out with other entrepreneurs. If you are aspiring, to be the next industry leader in science, you should probably be hanging out with science leaders,
Right.
those types of folks. And I think finally, you should try to figure out messaging approaches on platforms outside of, like I mentioned, but ones that are going to challenge you. So that's how you're going to build your muscle, grow your brand. That is some of the steps I've taken to advance myself, partnering, with other people or brands that maybe, let me say this, companies, brands, folks in your industry and outside of your industry that are going to help you grow in the spaces that you're trying to be in.
And I don't want to say that's easier said than done, but all excellent things and advice. And again, I'm an optimist by nature.
Yeah, sure.
I will say, being in this environment, the level of, and I'll say it, the level of success I've had with the show, some folks be like, oh, well, here comes Rich James, and they're no longer as supportive because they feel like I'm going to steal their shine for whatever that is, right? But I appreciate your honest and candid and sharing those things. So hopefully someone will be inspired to kind of take that so that they can be a thought leader in their industry. So I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. I knew you had good energy when I first met you. So
thank you.
I knew you had good energy when I first met you. So tell us, what inspires Courtney O'Neill? Because you mentioned that. What and who inspires Courtney O'Neill?
I'm inspired by different people across industries. I follow different companies, different industries, different leaders, so it's like from Oprah Winfrey to local officials, to be quite honest. I think right now we're in such an interesting time, with the loss of life that we keep seeing that has not discontinued. Part of my career path has included working in civil rights. So I've worked with, the community firsthand on those issues and have been troubled by those things, to the point where it is hard to feel like you're able to live life fully, but also connected at the same time. So finding balance is important to me. And that's why I said I look at people across industries. Lifestyle is a holistic approach. So not tuning out one thing versus the other, but just seeing the resilience of people, the fact that people are willing to keep going. We just had, for instance, the other day, a double rainbow. That was inspiring to me. I was excited to see that. Seeing, the young poet that spoke at the inauguration on the cover of Vogue, that's inspiring to me. Yes. To see stories like that from how it started to how it's going, as the catchphrase is, those stories motivate me because it shows you that it's possible. Everybody started from somewhere. Oprah Winfrey got her start in Baltimore. So, there's no cap. And I think that that's a very real thing, despite what people maybe close to you might suggest, that's a reality. There's no cap.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, in terms of, a lot of stuff that's happening in the world, and I might have said this sometime before, the fact that it took the world to be still.
Yes.
For it to get to the level that it has in terms of George Floyd. And again, right now that trial is happening. And then, as you mentioned, this latest occurrence, sometimes, when you hear the term living a rich life, you're like, well, what
right.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, really? You're talking about that? But, at the end of the day, we're still trying to motivate and educate and inform and still encourage folks. Yeah, we know what's happening. Let's be clear. but at the same time, you still got to find a way to press forward. I mean, that's kind of my thought. Because sometimes folks are like, oh, you're living a rich life. Oh, that's nice. But what about such and such? Well, I'm not discounting what's happening in the world. And the one thing that I always enjoy is having conversations with Monty. We talk before and usually after, especially if we're both hungry, but it's important to have those conversations and understand what's happening as we continue to move forward, right? So
exactly,
taking those positive things and that inspire us is the way to go. Is
right.
The way to
You
go.
can't be hampered by the realities of so-called life, because that is, quite frankly, what the enemy or the devil, however you look at it, would want you to do. They want you to stop. So you have to be motivated to keep going, to persevere through the struggles and not live, as I say, in the struggle. I refuse to live in the struggle.
Say that again. Say that again.
I refuse to live in the struggle.
Right. So again, I mentioned this earlier. There's always two questions that I ask my guests. And the first one we ask, what is your superpower? The second question is, what does living a rich life mean to you?
So I recently, the other day, posted about living abundantly. And you kind of tapped in on that hesitation around speaking about abundance, because people assume that means financial wealth. Mm-hmm. And to some extent, yes, it does. That might be the ultimate goal, but abundance is also a mindset. Right. And that is what living a rich life means to me. Abundance is something that, as I mentioned, even the thought of not living in the struggle, you can have setbacks, but that setback sometimes is a setup for a comeback. So you have to continue to live in a positive mindset, which I think is part of abundance. So looking at, I could be living on the street, but I'm not, it's half full versus half empty. So that's living rich to me.
Nice. Well said, Courtney. Well said.
Thank you.
So, there's never enough time. I do want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Some excellent conversation. And hopefully at some point in time, we'll have an opportunity to work together some form or fashion. No pun intended. So. So I'm looking forward to talking with you again. Normally, again, I like to express to my guests, I normally take them out. Normally we're in the studio, and I feed you, and that's my thank you. But I say thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing your story, and we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. I feel a little cheated, so you owe me some dinner and a fee.
I got you, and I'll come with more questions at that time too. You can believe that.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Courtney. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. There you have it. That was Courtney O'Neal, owner, founder of Courted. We're going to keep this thing going. I got to say, this second guest, our featured guest, is phenomenal brother. I had an opportunity of meeting him. I want to say at a happy hour on a humble, and from there I got his information. I've seen his work. I've heard a lot about him. He is a filmmaker, director, editor, producer, known for works like Whole Time, Feels Like Euphoria, Grace After Midnight Pain. He is one of the most creative artists that I've seen in my time, and we're going to get into that. He continues to define innovation personified in the creativity and fashion space, doing all this while inspiring his local community. Please welcome the talented and gifted Mr. Akio Evans. I'm good. So Akio, your audio is kind of low.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a whole lot better. That's a whole lot better.
awesome?
So first and foremost, my brother, how are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I just actually came back from working and I'm working back to back. But I just couldn't wait. This was the highlight of my day. Couldn't wait to speak with you, man. Couldn't wait to speak.
Oh, nice, nice. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So the things is too, because when we posted on Instagram and I told folks that you were going to be on the show, I gotta say, which surprised me, I was getting phone calls and I was getting text messages, like what? And the funny thing is, and I do apologize because I think my team got spelled your name incorrectly the first time, but we adjusted that real quick.
No worries, man. I mean, hey, some people call me IKEA. They call me Aiko because when Gene Aiko came out, people started shifting from the IKEA, the store IKEA, to Aiko because her name is AIKO. But man, it's no worries, man. I get that all the time, man. I didn't even I barely noticed it until I actually looked at the bottom. I was like, whoa. But man, I just appreciate you bringing me on board.
No doubt, no doubt. We're gonna keep it moving. But I do say we had 2 people call me. It was like, yo, you spelled his name wrong. Let's start with this filmmaking thing, because we had a lot of fun sitting down and just kind of talking about some of your work, and folks want to get some of your artwork. They was talking about your film, a lot of things going on. So we got to talk about this. So when it comes to the filmmaking, right? Who are some of your filmmaking influences?
It's a few of them. I'm glad you say because it's like I can't just tie it all into one. And the reason why I can't tie it all into one is because filmmaking, number one, is a collaborative effort between a lot of other people. So, but from different genres, I mean, you have, of course, Spike Lee, number one. Number two would be David Fincher. I love his cinematography. I love the way he uses his shadows, and I love mainly also the element of just telling a story, and having your own style. In the new age, I love, of course, I can't skip Mario Van Peebles and John Singleton before I go on a new age. But I love Lena Waithe. I love what she's doing. Ryan Coogler, even the recent the new directors here in Baltimore. Shout out to Kirby Griffin and Jamal Jones. But it's a few of them, man, that I really admire. Yeah, that's to name a few.
And it's so funny because again, we do our research here before we have guests, and they were some of my team members. They were familiar with some of the work, and we're going to talk about some of that you did with Snoop from The Wire. We're going to talk about that. And some of these names I would have never heard until my team's like, yeah, well, there's such and such, and then you mentioned Mario Van Peebles, just taking it back. What are some of the toughest aspects of making a film?
Man, it's funny because I was just listening to a podcast today about the downfalls of just being an independent filmmaker. There's so many sharks out there that are preying on the independent filmmakers, because believe it or not, the indie world is just now becoming bigger and not on the same level as the industry, and especially when the pandemic had hit.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to talk about what's going on now, because I haven't been really diving into film a lot lately as I used to, but I would say now would be a great challenge, because all those who have been hitting the ground running with pretty much doing things on their own in terms of using their own funds with budget, of course, with the pandemic happening, indie, if you're not careful, of course, you run the risk of actually putting other people in danger if you're not doing it right.
Right.
In today's time with the pandemic, is definitely becoming a challenge versus if you're on a television show and all of you are able to have a bubble, if you will. One of my friends, Kwame Patterson, he just recently commissioned me to do some artwork, but he and a few others of the actors of David Makes Man, they were in a bubble, right? They were in a bubble, and so I would say that with today's pandemic, I'm just going to touch bases on it today. That is becoming challenging, but in that I won't want people to get discouraged, because if you have already shot some things prior to the pandemic, which I have a whole catalog that hasn't even been released yet. That is the golden opportunity to actually go back and re-edit and tell your story that way. And I feel like after this pandemic, we're going to see a lot. If it hasn't already happened yet, we're going to see a lot of different other creative ways, like how you and I are talking right now on this live. We're going to see a lot of creative ways of to break those challenges, because it's always a back door how you can actually break through. So yeah, just on an optimistic, being optimistic, perspective,
So absolutely. So I will say, in looking at some of your work from previous, and I know you've been doing some other things from the fashion, which I've tapped your phone a couple of times. Well, you got to get in the next shipment. We're gonna definitely talk about the fashion, because that stuff is just hot. That's the hot. But I still, from a filmmaking perspective, do you see yourself going back down that avenue in the next, few years, 2 years, 1 year?
I definitely do. Because even before the pandemic, it's funny that you mentioned that. I already had. I've been pretty much writing a script of this short film that I wanted to work on for years. I mean, since 2017, and it was titled Deaf Citizen. I even teamed up, as I mentioned, Jamal Jones before. He's a film producer. He had me, participate in this. It was a mini short run. It was like a program called the Filmmakers Meetup. And what that did, it was allow me to actually format the short film into a script, which I haven't done at all in my career. Everything I've done in my career, whether it was, I started actually filming events, doing videography, everything you can name, but I never was, pretty much knew the structure of how to do a script and how to actually follow through. And in that program, the Filmmakers Meetup, they 6 Point Pictures, they brought you in front of people who were working on Discovery Channel, working on different sets to actually help bring your vision to life. But what you needed to do ahead of time was actually have everything structured. Now, I did treatments before I wrote minor scripts, but really so what I would say is that, yes, I do want to tap in. If you look at my brief catalog, I've always did everything, whether it be editing, whether it be color grading, even in my whole time, I was in front of the camera for once. I shot some of the footage, but I allowed my friend James Perry, he's another great director who I look up to. I allowed him to be behind the camera, because I wanted to know what it was like to direct. And so in the future, I do want to work on things. I would rather be more when directing, sitting in the director's chair, and not necessarily have my hands on anything if I can have the opportunity to. And being that now that I'm tapping into the art, which you've been calling my phone for, I feel like that alone is a blessing, because that's forcing me to do what filmmaking is created for. Like I said earlier, it's a collaborative effort. So if you're doing everything at once, which I used to do, which I had the luxury back in the day of staying up countless hours of the night. But as you get older, you start to learn that, that's not the way to go. You have a headache, you wake up, you have to, wake up in the waking hours, and next thing you're walking like a zombie. But if you stick to the original forms, you can hire people, and that alone is powerful, because you're also creating a sense of community, and that's what filmmaking is. So in the future, I do see me working on projects. Deaf Citizen specifically was a title that I had wanted to create, because my friend Alton, who I work with at my job at Hopkins, he's hearing impaired, but he can read lips, and he would tell me stories that he would go through. And as he was telling me stories, I was just stacking in my mind. And I wanted to create each and every scenario that he had went through into a short film, and actually enabling the viewer to be in his shoes, So, but when the pandemic had happened, and I don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, because a lot of people are blaming things on that. I believe that anything is possible, but I would say that when that had happened, that's because how I seen the short film, people wouldn't have on masks, So
Right.
again, that goes along to how things are challenging now with shooting, because now you have to, if you're going to be out here as an independent filmmaker, or even in the industry, you have to now, if you're in a bubble, that's good because you have your set, you have your set that you have your studios that you like Tyler Perry for that matter. But if you are the run and gun filmmaker, and if you need to shoot, I don't know, let's say for instance, not to use it, I don't want to plug any companies in, but let's just say a small business coffee shop for that matter, right? And you wanted to film a scene in there, you can now because 9 times out of 10, all the chairs are up, or 9 times out of 10, you can't even enter a place. So that eliminates the whole entire run and gun, So in the future, yes, I do see myself working on a few productions, but it's mainly going to be now what I feel in my heart of the stories I want to tell that's close to what I, have in mind. So that's to answer your question. Let the answer, but
yeah, no, and that's okay because that's what we hear. We all about Be Exposed Radio. We like to have those conversations because at some point it's going to inspire. You're definitely informing, and we want to make sure that we're encouraging others to kind of go towards that direction, whatever we're going to do. So again, for those that are just watching, just tuning in, we have our second guest, our featured guest, Akio Evans. And as you mentioned, this brother has done everything. He's produced, he's directed, he's edited, he's acted in a few things. And yeah, we got your bio right here. We got it all down. We got it all down. Now, one of the things you mentioned, just your surroundings, right? So how does, when it comes to filmmaking, how does where you live influence how and what you make? And how do you think Maryland currently affects your work process, when it comes to filming and thinking about stuff? Because you mentioned something when you're working with someone else, kind of, how does that all influence the things that you put together?
I think it influenced everything that you put together because I don't want to misquote what Nina Simone said and a lot of other artists said, but they said you want to reflect the times, right? Or you want to reflect what's going on around you. So, to that regard, how you want to be the voice of the voiceless. You have a lot of, I was just talking to a gentleman on a phone. This was maybe about a month or so ago, and he's into a lot of film as well. And I was like, yo, we have to start telling the stories of what we always are passionate about. Like for example, the Squeegee Boys, right? Instead of, and it's crazy because before the pandemic, I would be in my travels and I would see a squeegee boy walking with a guy with a camera. I'm talking about a professional camera, and they was doing a run and gun. You could tell it was a documentary for that matter. But I guarantee you, because it looked like that guy didn't know where he was going, because the squeegee boy was like, we got to do this, we got to do that. And why does outsiders have to tell our story? Or why does when, let's just say, Lofty Nathan, he did 12 O'Clock Boys, right? The first 12 O'Clock Boys that had Pug onto the film back in, I think that was in 2011, 2012. But Lofty Nathan, he's not even from Baltimore. He was a MICA student. And it was an outsider who had seen, a story, and he had, build up on that story, and they made a phenomenal independent film. And then after that 12 O'Clock Boys was inspired from the recent film that Angel Manuel Soto had directed, that Jada Pinkett and Will Smith had produced, called Charm City Kings. But again, my man Angel Manuel Soto, he's cool. He follows me. Him and I are working on new things. He's about to do the Transformers film, and he's also it's another film he's about to work on. Oh yeah, Blue Beetle with DC Comics. He's so he's directing that. But again, back to Baltimore. Baltimore is what I would say. Basically, these are people who see the story. They come here and they tell a story. So what I told the gentleman is that we have to start those stories that we talk about, whether we're talking to a friend and how we are upset about how when outsiders are being treating the squeegee boys in a certain way. Why haven't anybody told a story of how some people don't necessarily have the opportunities to work a job? Like for me, for example, when I was like in my early 20s, I was bouncing forth from state to state because, I had legal troubles here in Baltimore, Maryland. And I was outside in Phoenix, Arizona, panhandling, if you will. I was homeless. and I was out there not because I wanted to. I even hated asking people for money, but I know if I didn't get up at a certain time, and if I didn't switch my routes by asking these group of people, and then I knew what time. When you be outside long enough, you start to know how long people's routine when they step outside their house. Or, all right, I'm not going to be on this block asking for money. I'm going to go on that block. And that was my early 20s. And that was because of the mistakes that I kept making here in Baltimore and in Phoenix, which is crazy, due to the legal situations that I've had and the multiple warrants that I had. But what I'm saying is that when I see the Squeegee Boy, I see the Squeegee Boy as being somebody who I was, who just because I was always making clothes. When I was in Phoenix, it was a time where when I was homeless, like I said, I would make clothes in a public bathroom. I had an iron, I had a material, and that's all I actually needed, to the point where I used to get kicked out the malls out there in Phoenix, Arizona. I got kicked out the malls because I was trying to sell my shirts inside the mall. And and I didn't get it to the point. I still didn't let that stop me. So what I'm saying is that same hustle that I had is the same hustle that the Squeegee Boy has, because that's the only outlet that he feels like he necessarily his environment, right? So in that same hustle, as the filmmaker would see, like me, for example, the environment of sharing that story, so outsiders and people won't see as them harassing. Because half the time when they're out there, yes, people they're like, man, well, he had on the Gucci belt. Well, how do you know? How you don't know if an athlete, which is at M&T Stadium, or a drug dealer for that matter, has said, yo, I ain't got no money, but yo, here, yo, take this belt. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people go, yo, but they got me. No, because I was there. I made my own clothes, and I still was somewhat fresh. But just trying to take care of myself. When at a young age, didn't have nowhere else to go. But I kept myself up, you know what I mean? But I was also struggling. I mean, you imagine you at a young age, your mother told you, it's either gonna make you or break you. You keep getting in trouble here in Baltimore. You don't know nobody out there in Phoenix. You go because you still have the warrant, and the feds is on you. So you had no choice but to go out there, right? Mm-hmm. Go out there. You don't know nobody.
Yeah.
So it's people like that here who are from here, but their mother probably passed away. Their father probably passed away. So let's see that story on film. Let's identify what we go through, because the narrative is always us being what they've been painting for us to be for years, and that's why a lot of like what we're witnessing today, a lot of police brutality, a lot of police killings of them killing us. For one, they're not even attached to the environment that we are from. And number two, they're only seeing the images that they see on screen. And number three, we're not telling those stories. We're not telling those stories. We don't even know the resources if we could tell those stories. But I've been studying filmmakers for long periods of time who have been just using their phone and really just telling the story. So that's what to answer your question. That's what I tie it to. Like I said, even though I've been talking about Deaf Citizens for 2017, but it's a lot of films that aren't created overnight, that requires a lot of time and attention, that over time, when like I said, my attention and my focus is on creating art right now. But that when I feel like I reached in that space, that creative space to create it, I like to do things from my heart. I like to allow it to be in my heart. If I don't touch it, what I do is t-shirts, what I do the shoes, what I do the filmmaking. If my heart is not attached to it, there's no need to do it. There's no need to do it. So
facts.
That's pretty much.
That's facts. And that's an excellent segue, right? Because again, let's talk about the fashion that you put together, right? And I think, again, you're a product of your environment and things. We all got a story. I appreciate you for being very candid. I have somewhat of a similar story, minus the law, but that's deep, and I appreciate you for sharing your story. Now let's talk about the fashion that you do, the sneaker design, the clothing design that you're doing. First and foremost, brother, that stuff is hot. Now, I support. I don't mind paying. But we're gonna have to talk some way for me to get something, somehow, because the stuff is custom, right? And you've had the opportunity to work with quite a few celebrities. You got your eye on your stuff, and your stuff is just phenomenal. when did you realize that you had that talent to be that creative? Now, again, I know because we've done our research. I think somewhere around 17 or younger, all right, you just started with it. But when did you say, "Hey, I can do this"? And do you have something you can show us? Go ahead, Akio.
I think that I started, man. It stemmed from, like you said, when I was younger, when I was 17, and I was making things that I thought would how can I put this? Because I don't like to, but I have to be real how I started. Like, I will always look at things like I can make them. It started with me making I was 16, 17 years old, and I already had a 21 ID that I made for myself to buy liquor, purchase liquor. So when I was 16, I was already, first I had my first, by sneaking, I drank my first champagne when I was 11 years old. Again, the environment, right? Now, you fast forward to nowadays, I haven't drunk in almost 2 years. Alcohol. I stopped alcohol, I think it was like in 20. I lost count how long. I can quit things like cold turkey, and I used to, be out here. But anyway, to answer your question, with the clothes, I started to say, hey, man, I can make anything. I always had the idea that I can make anything. So it started to go from, slowly but surely, I started to lean away from the illegal stuff to always make the shirts. And when I when I left Baltimore to go to Phoenix, Arizona, that's when I started to create a little bit more, and I seen how people outside my own hometown was responding to my art. And at the time, even still to this day, some of those designs that I would create, people haven't created anything that I created. And I'm gonna give you an exclusive because I'm about to create this video about DMX, because I met DMX in Spokane, Washington, and this will tie into everything that you're saying.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna share the story because before I actually created with you, so you're getting an exclusive.
Nice. That's the exposed radio, baby.
So DMX, man, I met him when I was 22. And I remember, like I told you, I had multiple warrants, so I was actually visiting my cousin here in Baltimore for a wedding. And when I came, I caught the Greyhound. I will never catch the Greyhound again. I caught the Greyhound back to back, and it took 5 days to get from Spokane, Washington to Baltimore. And then when I left Baltimore, I went right back to Spokane. And oh my goodness, you name anything, I seen it on those 5 days on that Greyhound. It was ridiculous.
Okay.
Man, so I came back to Spokane, and a friend of mine, his name is Tony, he was like, hey, man, look, I know you just got back into town, but hey, man, DMX is in town, man. And that belly Dickie shirt, you know the Dickie shirts, right?
Yes.
I used to make belly Dickie shirts, and I used to have, or any type of movie shirts, New Jack City, I used to make Scarface and belly, and I would put the movie scenes onto the Dickie shirt. It was me, and it's still, like I said, that design still you never seen any movie scenes on a Dickie shirt. I would put Goldie, the Mac, on a Dickie shirt. So anyway, he said, yo, wear that belly Dickie shirt that glow in the dark, because the scenes that I put on the shirts would glow in the dark. And I want DMX to see that. So I said, okay, cool. So now keep in mind, I was trying to make me something to eat because I didn't eat I was used to not eating. Like I said, I used to be homeless. So I was like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna just try to cook something real fast. Didn't happen. And I wound up not, being able to shower, right? So he was outside. He said, man, put the belly Dickie on, let's go, man. He's waiting for us at the restaurant. So I put the Dickie shirt on, and I had like a wrinkled t-shirt that was hanging out of here, right? So it was embarrassing, but I just put it on top because I was like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Goes to the restaurant. I see his DMX. He had 2 chains on. He had the small collar, and it was dark in this restaurant. He was the only one in the restaurant and at the table in the corner of the restaurant eating. And as we was approaching him, like I said, I seen his chain because I said, yo, this is DMX. Wow, ain't a joke. And then he's like, let's go to the back. You know what I mean? So we goes to the back, and Tony, he gave him, an ounce of grain, and DMX took a slight pause. He smoked it, and he was like, good shit. And then he put it in his joint. He pulled out a big knot of money. I was about to pay the guy, Tony. Tony's like, no, man, no, that's you right there. But look, I want to introduce you to my friend Akio. You see this belly Dickie shirt that he has on? He made it. And DMX was like, word? He said, yo, you made that? He's like, oh man, you know how you laugh and you run and you come back.
Yeah.
He was like, oh man, yo, dog, let me get it off your back, dog. Let me get it off your back. Now, keep in mind, this is the Aikio at 22 that was in survival mode. This is the Aikio that wasn't seeing anything on a marketing perspective. Like, you know, so I told him no. I told him no. I said, hey, man, but here's my card. I can make it for you. I can make it for you. And then he was like, dog, yeah, you ain't gonna let me get off your back. I said, bro, I said, to be honest with you, you probably don't want this, man. I just got off the Greyhound, man. He said, where you from? I said, I'm from Baltimore. And I was happy to say that because I knew he was from Baltimore. Mm-hmm. So he was like, so he started naming all these streets. We had a little, had our talk. And then I told him, he said, what you doing over out here? And I told him at the time, I said, I have a warrant here and I have a warrant in Phoenix at the time, right? I took care of my charges. I'm good now. I've been working at Hopkins for 10 years, so I'm good. And I've been teaching. But he was like, what? He said, man, I get you not going back to Phoenix. He said, but Baltimore, that's home. He said, yo, you should do your time, dog. He was like, do your time. And at that time, I was like, all right, bet, man. Now that you're in a happy mood, let me whip up my camera. So I went up my camera and said, D, you mind if I put you on? And he looked at my Dickie shirt where he had a cigarette in his hand. He was like, nah, man, wait till at the party. And he said that because he was like, yo, how you gonna want something from me and I can't even get your Dickie shirt off your back? But I was in fear of my design being taken because I seen the numerous designs even then being taken. And I didn't know whether I didn't want that transaction to be the end transaction. I gave him a card. And then even in that night, we kicked it for the whole night. I'm talking about till 4 o'clock in the morning. I went to the concert. He brought us on stage on the concert because I met Bone Thugs. I was filming Bone Thugs, and Bone Thugs manager told me to stop filming. DMX said, bump that, y'all. He tried to embarrass y'all. Y'all come on stage. We got on stage with him. I still got all this on camera. I still got this on my tape that I'm gonna have to release. And yeah, man. So I think it was in those incidents where I kept seeing the celebrities, even then in 2006, 2007, 2008, that I started to see how they was responding to it. That I started to say, huh. But it started really hitting but I left it alone for a while. And then I met Snoop, and Snoop was like, yo, Keys, remember the stuff you used to make back in the day? I said, yeah. She said, Keys, she was like, yo, you should start making your clothes again. Yo, like, she said that in November 25th. She was like, yo, it's hot. It's hot right now. And when I made that, then that's when she said, yeah, I'm going to share it on my joint. She shared it on her joint, and it got the attention of Donna Rollins. And from that point on, from 2015, it started spiraling up. And I had invested in myself by purchasing a logo. And I said, yo, I'm going to do it right this time. I'm not going to do my own logo. I want to hire somebody. And again, that goes back with filmmaking. Trying to do everything on my own. Let me hire somebody to do it. Like how you said, Rich. Rich was like, you don't take on everything, Rich. You say, hey, I'm gonna have somebody email you. I'm gonna have it. Because when you do everything, you experience burnout. It's already enough energy that we have to do with doing this. Right. So, and then when you do that, again, you're starting small in the corporation that you have right now. So when you get to the bigger levels, then you're already used to employing people. You know what I mean? At the small level first. Don't wait till you get the big lump sum. So anyway, I say all that to say, man, that it's crazy because I was already going to release Belly shirts April 20th of this month because that's the anniversary of when the Belly had first went to DVD. And I had screenshotted when I had purchased the Belly movie cover hologram stickers because when I make these shirts, you say what I had. When I make these shirts, I know as you seen on social media, I normally allow the first 4 people to get like a gift. So I had before DMX got into the hospital last Friday, I believe. I was already no, not last Friday. It was a week before because he was in there for 6 days. April 1st, I already purchased. It's crazy, bro. And it's the same thing that happened with Black Panther, but I'm not gonna go into that because I don't spend too much time on this. But it seems like every time I be creating things, even it always. It's wild, man. It's wild. So
manifests into an opportunity. I mean, it's real because it's history. It's things from your past that, because again, it's your time. I mean, I'm dead ass. Akil, it's your time. The stuff I see you do, I know you had with the sneakers, the Nikes, the logos, the little keychains, all that stuff. And, and anyone will tell you, again, I've been blessed and I've been fortunate enough. And everyone that's been on my show, I've reached out and I paid full price. Now they want to give me stuff and I appreciate that. But I say, no, I'm going to support you because you support me at the same time. And your stuff, the designs on your sneakers. And again, like you said, we've seen Donnell Rawlings, Dave Chappelle, Dr. Dre, Kevin Hart, dude from Mobb Deep, a couple of athletes, AI, right? When you put quality stuff out there, and I'm glad Snoop said, hey, get it together, because I did read that, and the folks, some of my team, they're a little younger. They was like, oh, The Wire. I said, what, you ain't see The Wire? I said, well, I need you to go check out The Wire now, right? So we're gonna have another night. We're gonna do, I mean, I've seen it all, but I said, wait a minute, and I'm a native New Yorker, right? So I'm one of those that's not even originally from here. But again, Baltimore has a lot of history. And again, I'm glad that she got you back into that game of fashion and giving you that kick. And again, she inspired you to keep doing what you're doing, because your stuff is phenomenal.
Appreciate you.
Let folks know where they could find you at, from a social media perspective, all that good stuff.
Anywhere on social media, you can follow me. Akio Evans is AKIOEVANS, and my website is byakioevans.com. That's BYAKIOEVANS. On YouTube, Akio Evans, or Be More 410MD. Again, that's Be More 410MD. And just like how you said, Rich, the stories of Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, and even just recently the OWN Network and HBO Max reaching out to me to get some commission work. The new BMF Star series, they reached out to me. It's a lot of content that I haven't even shared yet, but a lot of those stories I'm about to start creating on my YouTube. So if everyone can actually start looking at my YouTube or even follow me on IG, those stories, even the story that I just explained to you guys today about DMX and God rest DMX Soul, that's going to be one of the stories I actually have on my YouTube as well.
All right. So you have a YouTube channel also?
Yes, it's youtube.com/Akio Evans, or it's the same, or you can just put Be More 410MD. If you can't remember my name, just type in youtube.com/Be More 410MD, and all my work will pop up there, as well as Vimeo or anything for that nature.
Nice. So let me tell you, because you got a lot, so between, you got some visions of going, and you got some brothers saying, hello, brothers, all right? They following you right off the bat. We appreciate that. So tell us, how do you balance, right, because I know that custom design it takes time, right? It takes a lot of time, but I got to say, you're putting together some phenomenal pieces. How do you balance it all?
Well,
that's something I struggle with when it comes to, radio hosting and doing networking, concierge. But how do you balance it all?
It's a learning process, Rich. Like, I'm still learning how to balance it all. Like, it's times where I tell myself one day I'm a relax, and
don't do that to us.
I get anxiety of even saying or even allowing myself to relax. I'm learning I'm learning now at being my age 36 that's not good. If this was the Akio back in the day, I would have been doing it all. But I'm learning that, because the first conversation was about film, but I'm learning that I can only do so much. So balancing it, I'm learning now to just take on one thing at a time, even when I have 10 people in queue for my customizations. Or the limited drops. So if I do limited drops, I kind of say, hey, you know what? I'm only selling maybe 20 to 30 limited pieces. I cut that off and I go back to doing this. Or I balance it all by scheduling when people can have, or when people are going to get their release, because I'm only one man. Now, eventually, like I said, handling the small. Eventually, when it starts to get, it starts to expand, then I'm going to take what I know and start to employ others, to start teaching others what I know. Because I start with my orders, I start to give people what they need to keep up with their shirts, and select a few people. And then when I learned that they know how to do that, then, hey, who's to say that, I'm like, hey, man, if you don't mind, or I'm going to start having seminars. When the seminars come into play, it's all about building that community, because this right here, can help a community. It can help us of understanding the value that we already have. Right. We are already valuable.
Akio, I am all in.
Yeah.
Whenever you need something, like I said, help them with a seminar, I am all in on the strength. I am all in. You need help strategizing. I'm gonna let you do that. I stay in my lane. But if you need help with putting stuff together, connecting you with folks, again, like I said, we can all win, as I mentioned with Courtney O'Neill, owner of Courted. You know, I'm all in. So you have a strong brand. I love what you're doing, and I've been trying for a minute, as you know. You know, you tell me, hey, the next drop. I'm like, God damn it, you know. So, but you got, I mean, again, it's amazing. For those that are just tuning in and watching, we got Akio Evans, artist, filmmaker, director, excellent brand, and make sure you follow him on social media. Make sure you pay attention, get your orders in, and everything is custom. So you got to make sure you get in and get there in the schedule. But I'm gonna make sure I get mine before you get yours. That's crazy. I like to ask, you know, and I get a sense during our conversation, kind of what does your artwork represent? And it sounds like it represents, you know, your experience. I see you're heavy into comic books as well. So tell us a little bit about what your artwork represents.
Again, like in 2015, I started with, 2015, 2016, I started creating like this concept because I realized that my name, Akio, means it means shining man. It means glorious hero. And my mother's name was Glorious. Her name was Glorious Taylor. When she passed away, you know, I didn't get a chance to ask her, or even she was a very deep thinker. She read a lot of books. I mean, so when she named me Akio, she probably knew what she was doing as far as with tying her name into my name, because that's what Akio means in Japanese, right? So anyway, my mother, she died of a heart attack in 2012. So what I do is I actually add the logos on the left side. So, and when you see me in my work, it's always going to be on the left side because my mother died of a heart attack, and that is where the heart is. You know, to your right is my logo, but to my left, it's where my heart is. And inside the heart is A-R-T. So and I like to circle that. So the O also represents the aorta. You know what I mean? So the O, you know how that connected to your heart. It's
right.
It's deep. And the comics actually stemmed from my mother being a single parent, and she didn't know how I was always doing bad in school. So she didn't know how to connect with me, yearning the desire to learn. So she would give me a lot of comic books.
Okay.
So when I do Glorious Heroes, I'm doing everything that her and I shared that we loved, and I'm also doing things that, you know, like for example, for the comics, you know, she gave me, she was a reader, so she said, okay, Kia, with that comic, what was the end of that comic? What happened? And I would say, I would make up something. She said, no, you're lying because I read the whole thing. And, you know,
nice.
And it's crazy.
Mama knows.
He knows, you know what I mean? So that's what it stems from. It stems from being your own hero. You know what I mean? It stems from, you know, doing everything with your heart. You know, it stems from, you know, pretty much telling your own story. You know what I mean? Being your own hero. That, again, that O. And the Akios, the O is capitalized. Yeah, you would think that, oh, wow, that's the O's. They look like Baltimore O's. But no, the O means being your own hero, you know, and just celebrating your own, standing in your own purpose, you know. So everything with that, for example, and I like to think that the rarity of the item, it becomes valuable. You know, you don't have to let anybody let you know that you're valuable. You don't have to compare yourself to a corporation like Macy's or any store for that matter, local retail or even a national retail or a luxury brand. No, you are already valuable because when you're gone, and when your signature is on that item, I don't care what it is, whether it be a T-shirt, whether it be a basketball, like an athlete signs a basketball, you know, an up and coming athlete or even an established athlete, that ball now becomes valuable, right? So we have to understand we're valuable already with our signature and our story. Our signature and our story. We cannot compare ourselves to Joe Blow down the street because they're doing X, Y, and Z for this amount of price. They can do that. But when you master your craft, and that can be any type of mastery. Don't necessarily start one day and say, all right, I'm gonna start doing X, Y, and Z. No, when you master the craft, you now have the ability, because these industries, they're going after our input. They're going after our ideas. Like I said about DMX, the Dickie shirt that he admired, you know, that still hasn't been created till to this day. And I think in that no, that was an empowering no to not give my gift away immediately, prematurely for somebody to take. Because I've seen so many of my ideas. Because Great minds think alike. Ideas go in your mind and go in my mind. It not necessarily means somebody took your idea. It also means that that same idea that was birthed inside you, the idea doesn't die with you. The idea is from our ancestors it's a spirit that goes into everybody. And if you don't act on that idea because you heard somebody say X, Y, and Z, like for example, somebody say, "Oh, the same idea you want to do, yo, I see somebody on TV with it," and be like, "Yeah, yo, they didn't take your idea. It was just that the spirit came to you with that idea. You did nothing with it.
You didn't execute.
You let it get stale." And if Snoop didn't tell me, like, and that was just a friend, that was just an observation. There was many friends that told me, "Keo, what you wearing? Yo, you look like you a billboy. Yo, you doing too much." And I listened to him until Snoop said, "Yo, 2014, she shook me." She's like, "Yo, people still ain't doing what you was doing when I met you in 2007.
Right.
That's 7 years ago. 2014 was 7 years ago after that." She was like, "Yo, you need to hit the ground running and start doing it again." I was like, but I'm doing film now, Snoop. I'm doing your documentary, Snoop. When am I have time for that? Yo, you should do it. And then next thing, Dave Chappelle knocked on my door. Dr. Dre knocked on my door. So it's just also listening to that input and the observation with others, but also knowing that, we have to, it's biblical. We have to use all our talents. We just not necessarily supposed to use one of our talents, but
Absolutely.
every once in a while I dib it dab it and I'll create shoes or a shirt, and you'll see me still using my other talents with doing the video editing. Like your talent could be you smiling. You can have a pretty smile. If you got a pretty smile, you better smile. Just smile.
Hey, smile. Yeah.
Chris might hit you up. Chris might say, "You know what? You got a talent. You smile. You making everybody smile. Let's put you on. That's your God-given talent."
There it is.
So
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I love it. There's never enough time. We had a couple of folks looking at your IG, your craft, the work on the sneakers is that someone said, "Keep work, fam, keep it up." So Akil, we can go on, and I said it wanted to be organic, and it has, a couple of questions from the team, but this is the time where I call it Living a Rich Life closing remarks. So if you can stick with me as we close out the show, I'd appreciate that. So folks, thanks for watching. It's time for Living a Rich Life closing remarks. Those, again, thanks for watching, tuning in. I appreciate everything. Happiness comes in many forms. Just make sure it fits what you believe, feel, and control. That's all that matters. Let every situation be what it is instead of what you think it should be. Again, thank you to Courtney O'Neill and Akio Evans for sharing your stories and inspiration today. Until next week, stay focused, continue to be inspired to live a rich life. Once again, I am your host, Rich James, saying good night, and thank you for tuning in to BeExposedRadio.com. I'll talk to you soon, Akio.
Talk to you soon.
All right. My brother.